I have to apologize to everyone. The last time we met, I hit record and apparently my cursor was hovering over the record button, and so it stopped recording almost immediately. So that is why we do not have minutes from the last meeting. So I don't know if anyone took notes, but if you did, I would love to get those notes. Because I didn't have things like who made a motion to accept the minutes or if there were any changes to the minutes and all of those types of things. I generally watch the recording to get the minutes. So I'm
I have a
sorry
few.
about that.
I'll send you some in a couple
Okay.
days.
Sounds good.
So do we want to not approve the minutes then?
Right. There's not anything really in the minutes to approve.
Just
So
it was the agenda. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So Lynn's here.
Yep, I'm here.
Oh,
Heather too.
and Heather. So we're good.
Hi.
So Sarah, do you want to move into the budget presentation then?
So Kathleen Walker, our liaison to City Council, just joined us. And so I was thinking that maybe, I know some of you know her and she knows some of you, but maybe we should do some quick introductions,
Sure.
starting with Kathleen Walker.
Hi, Kathleen Walker. Hi, Jerry.
Hi.
Do you want to say anything to the
Oh,
group about?
Well, I'm just, I've got on the city council in November or, January is when I got sworn in. And my assignment was to be the liaison for the city council for the library board. And I'm just real curious. I've been spending a lot of my COVID times reading books. In fact, I was just listening to Amy Poehler's Yes, Please here and thought, oh my gosh, it's 6 o'clock. I got to get online. So I make great use of the library, and I'm just really proud of all the work you all do to kind of connect our community to such a valuable resource, and look forward to working with you all.
Sounds
Thank you.
good. Jerry, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Jerry McMahon. I've been around for a long time and I'm retired. I've been using the library a lot myself, and I think you've been very creative during this time.
Thank you. Jerry, as the chair, do you want to call on the other people to?
Okay,
Introduce themselves?
Kathleen, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Kathleen Drain. Kathleen. And I am also the Library District Advisory Council representative for the library board. And you may remember me because I used to be the reference librarian eons ago, but not anymore. I'm retired too. So thank you for helping us out.
She's very, very intelligent in this arena.
Yes.
We appreciate everything you have, everything you know.
Mhm.
And Lynn.
Hi, Kathleen. I'm Lynn Pollard. I swear I was just with some folks, Cal Bertram and Susan Stint, and your name came up because I said I was coming to this meeting. Anyway, like Jerry, I'm on the advisory board representing Hoodland as an area, and I'm also retired.
Okay, we'll do ladies first. Heather.
Mhm. Hi, Kathleen, Heather Miche, and I am not retired and used to be on staff at the Sandy Branch many years ago, and then also did an awful lot of sub work at Gladstone Branch and so on. Just huge library geek, love it, and so proud of our two branches for how we've just amazingly kicked it out of the park all the time, but during COVID, it's been just phenomenal. So.
Okay. And Dale is our last advisory board member.
Yeah, I'm with the Friends of the Sandy Library.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, the other Dale is on the advisory board.
Yes,
I'm Dale. You know me. I've been
I,
hanging around this for the city for quite a while, and I'm now officially a retired guy. And the library's been kind of a passion for me forever, and I'm just really proud to be a member of this group and to watch how Sandy, I think, sets the example on how small town, and library districts should run.
Mm.
So I'm just tickled to be part of this group.
Okay, and then we have the Friends of the Library representatives. Yeah, Dale, did you say anything else on the Friends of the Library?
sorry, I won't speak up when you say Dale unless you specifically mention.
That's okay. And then Jack.
I don't have official capacity for this group. I usually go to the LDAC meetings with Kathleen. I'm the secretary treasurer of the Friends, and I was the treasurer of the PAC of the original ballot measure in 2008. So I have a personal interest in the ballot measure and the rules and how the money is being spent.
Very good. Okay, I think we got everybody. Good. Okay, Sarah.
Right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with you so that you can see the slides. So the city changed how they wanted to do the budget presentations this year. So they gave us 4 slides ultimately, each department. So I had to try to figure out how to fit my 12 to 13 slides into 4 slides. So I'm going to say a lot of things that probably aren't in the slides. So I just left this starting pages in here for you. This is part of the larger budget presentation. We're all in one presentation, but the first budget meeting is April 26th in case you want to come, and that will be the one that I'm presenting at. And then they're going to be May 3rd, and then if they need a third meeting, it's going to be May 10th.
Will that be live or Zoom?
It will be Zoom.
Put me down for a notice, please.
Okay.
Me also, please.
Let's see.
Yeah, me too. That would be on
April.
next Monday. Yeah,
Yep, it's next
works
Monday.
good. At what, 7 o'clock?
I'm not sure if it may start at 6. Kathleen, do you remember? Kathleen Walker?
I'm not, I think it's 7, but let me just look it up for you real quick, okay?
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
April 26th.
Yes, Monday.
You can put me down too.
Just send it to everybody.
But yeah,
I-
just
I will.
Thank you.
Yeah.
if you're available, you can attend.
Okay. So
It's at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. Okay, perfect. Thank you,
Thank you.
Kathleen.
Huh?
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with the library's mission statement. The Sandy and Hoodland libraries support the community in their endeavors to create lifelong readers, learn to read and write, develop the ability to find accurate information, and connect to the online world. You notice I said Sandy and Hoodland libraries. In 2009, after voters voted yes on a library district with a permanent tax rate, and in Clackamas County, Sandy took over responsibility for the Hoodland Library in Welch's, which used to be run by Clackamas County. Our library service areas combined are over 36,000 people. The Sandy service area starts around Boring and Hoodlands ends near Government Camp. This means that in addition to the city of Sandy receiving our assessed value within our city limits, that we also receive a share of the unincorporated areas we serve based on the population in our area. So here are the numbers, and this is the high level numbers. So the library's, just a few things to point out. The library's biennial budget is just over $3.4 million this year, or this coming biennial. Almost 2.9 million of that comes from intergovernmental, which is our library district permanent tax rate. The other significant portion of our funding comes from the city, and that's $339,000. When the new library building was planned, we were about $800,000 short. The city council at the time agreed to have the city cover our debt expenditures, which was required with the IGA with Clackamas County. So I don't know if in the budget committee meetings, they're going to have you ask questions as I go along, or if they're going to have you hold questions to the end. But so I'm just going to ask, does anybody have any questions so far?
I think you might want to clarify why the budget shows 95,000 for debt service versus the 339, which I assume includes interest.
Actually, I think that 95,000 is debt service and interest, but I will double check that.
The other one that might get questioned is the $230,000 increase in personnel services.
And I'm going to talk about that in the third slide or fourth slide, I think.
Okay.
So this debt service is for capital improvements on the library that wasn't covered initially? Is that what the debt that's being serviced?
The debt service is on the new building. So in 2012, when the building was built, we took out a loan of $800,000.
So that's on capital expenses.
Yes, and that's why the city covers it ultimately.
So
Sarah?
so the 339 contribution from the city is paying that debt?
Yes.
What's the transfers?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
Okay, so, Jack,
There-
you said that excuse me.
I was just going to say one other thing, Sarah. I noticed that in the budget proposed document that Jordan submitted, it says debt service reflects the principal and interest payments on the library construction loan. You should clarify that that's only the Sandy building.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. Any other thoughts or questions?
Yeah, what was the
Well-
figure that Jack mentioned, the 339, was it?
That's the general revenue that the city gives us.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
My only question is
Oh, I
that
see.
if the 339 is coming from the city, they turn around and take 301, so there's a difference of 28,000, but they were also including, now maybe I'm missing something, that debt service is coming out of the general library revenue from the levy. Am I missing something, Kathy?
Yes, you are.
Okay, help me.
Let's ignore the transfer line until Sarah can get to that.
Okay,
339 covers the 95.
okay.
Oh. Okay.
So I'll cover the internal transfers now, and that is basically the costs of the city to run the library. So like human resources, the IT help we get, all of those pieces. So Jack, we normally call those chargebacks. So the money that the city gives us covers the debt service, but it doesn't cover the full internal transfer. The cost to run the library for the city.
Is there any generalized costs, like for they have the city council, the percentage of it is charged to each individual department, or is this purely costs that are dealing exactly with the library staff funding or something like that?
So the city did look at the internal transfers and updated their matrices. So for example, legal services are going to be based on the previous year's legal service. So the library will have a very low legal cost because generally we don't use the legal department very much. But and they've updated all of the building sizes, for example, and the FTEs so that we are paying our fair share of human resources based on the current FTE of each department.
So when you say legal fees, these are legal fees which were done the previous year dealing directly with the library, or are the legal fees for the whole city for everything and we have a percentage of it?
Nope, just for the library. The legal fees are the one piece that they pulled out and are going to be charging each department for their own legal fees.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Any additional questions before I move on?
Just one more. You said we're charged based on FTE
Mhm.
of the library or the city? It must be the library.
For the FTE for the library.
Yeah, okay.
And just to clarify a question on that, that's for all the FTEs for both libraries, is that right?
Yes. And on the next page, you'll see that for both libraries, we have a total FTE of 13.33.
Oh, okay. 16.
So Sarah, when do we discuss this internal, what do they call it? Indirect cost support question?
The city may discuss it in the beginning of the meeting. It wasn't my intent to bring it up during my presentation.
Okay. So
I don't know that there's going to be there may be an opportunity for public comment at the beginning of the meeting, but I believe the meeting it isn't like anybody can kind of zoom in and ask questions about stuff. I think that would be, the opportunity would be to ask questions now and have Sarah be able to get answers or something like that. My understanding, I've only been on the budget committee, for the last biennium, but it wasn't something open to the public to participate in, other than maybe a public comment period at the beginning.
Mhm.
right. We have an issue that we have to figure out how to present as a library board. The fact that Tyler graciously, at our request, reconsidered this formula for us because we have a particular obligation under the library district authorizations that overhead allocations have to be in the concept of direct or supportable, right? If it is a formula, that it be something that makes sense. So Tyler did that reevaluation for us at our request at meetings that occurred a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And due to all, the pandemic, et cetera, we finally have been able to see the benefit that we have received as a result of that. We have not actually seen the formula yet, but it does raise an issue that we have to request that it be done for the past biennia as well, because it is in fact a fiduciary failure on the part of the city if it takes more indirect costs than it should. And this is an issue in large part because of what the agreement says, the intergovernmental agreement, which you'll get to see, Kathleen, at some point. And the fact that over 2/3 of the funds coming into the city are not from city residents. They're from unincorporated residents. So this fiduciary obligation needs to be met. And at some point, we'll have to figure out how we tell the city that while this new budget is better there will be issues. It highlights that there will be issues that need to be reconsidered from prior budgets. I just want that on the table so everybody realizes that we will have to address this at some point.
Yes, Kathleen is right. With Tyler updating the formulas, ultimately for this biennium, he saved the library almost over $35,000. And that is between the chargebacks or the transfers and the insurance costs, because they updated the size of each building and then allocated the insurance costs based on our square footage. So both of those areas, we ended up owing the city, if you want to look at it that way, less money than in previous years. So
help me understand, because I'm assuming that these overhead costs, that go, take in a little, the city manager, the IT folks, the budget folks, the HR folks, all those things. There's formulas that have been kind of set up to account for those costs that apply to all departments, I assume. And I'll check on that, I guess. I assume they apply the same to all departments. There's not special formulas for each department.
no, they do apply the same across the board.
Okay. And so what I'm hearing you say, if I understand, is that there was some sort of relook at that and some other criteria was applied to come up with a different number?
Tyler inherited the budget from the previous finance director.
Right.
And this is the first year that he's really looked into the formulas. And he basically started at square one with the formulas to see where we should be. So the formulas were not clear in the spreadsheets that he inherited and things like that. So he couldn't figure out how the previous formulas were calculated, is what it sounds like to me.
But we were overcharged.
Yes. The bottom line is the ballot measure says you're only supposed to bill direct cost, not a percentage of function. If you have a city council meeting, you can't take the charges for the city council and spread them among all the departments. If you did, the library only paid a portion if they were involved in that part of the meeting. So it's been a fund that hasn't been monitored, hasn't been fiduciarily run properly since 2009. And so I think that's the bottom line in trying to get it fixed.
Well, it may have been proper in 2009, but a lot of things changed in between. The FTEs of each department, for example, changed, the square footage
Right.
of our buildings and all of
Right.
those things. So I think they just didn't update it for a period of time. It sounds
Well,
like to me.
Yeah, and I guess I don't see, I mean, here's how I see things, just so I'm kind of clear about where I come from on this, is that, we're providing this service for the Clackamas County. Basically, running this library district that includes Hoodland and Sandy. We're doing that on behalf of Clackamas County. And my assumption is that we're doing it cheaper than it would cost Clackamas County to do that, or they would be doing it themselves. Is that a fair assumption, or am I
I
off?
think there's two animals. There's a city and there's the district.
So the libraries were have been city owned for a long time. And then when the district passed in 2008, the county started collecting the money for the library district and distributing it out. And that is the only thing about the library district that's really Clackamas County. So I would say each library is really a city-run institution.
You mean?
And has been for a long time.
Well, I guess where I come from as a city councilor, I represent the city residents, and now I'm on the library board, and I'm interested in how we deliver services to the city residents, but also to the larger community. And want to make sure that we're giving the Hoodland residents, or whatever, I don't know if you call it Hoodland residents or how you actually identify that. I think it's the Hoodland residents, the services that they're paying for. And that we're also not having city residents subsidize services outside of the city limits. So I think those are two, valid objectives. And so I guess I don't know about what the past budget has been, but going forward, I'm hoping that this year's budget can reflect that. And it sounds like you all have some comments. Kathleen?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but you have a misapprehension on this. The
Okay.
city does not run the library only for the city. The city runs the library on behalf of the Sandy Service District, and then there are funds allocated to the Hoodland Service District. The Sandy District has almost twice as many taxpayers
Mhm.
than the city.
Mhm.
So the city is getting a boatload of money from those of us outside the city so that the city can have a library in its downtown. So this isn't an issue of whether the city is running something more efficiently than somebody else or doing a better job. It is simply a financial calculation. Is the city properly taking from the district revenue, which must be used for library services, an amount that is greater than it should to cover its administrative overhead at City Hall? That's the nub of the issue. Tyler appears to have addressed it looking forward. We need to address it looking backwards. And the reason why that is relevant is that Sarah does not have enough money going forward to provide all the services everyone wants her to be able to provide. And if it is a situation where a reimbursement is appropriate over time, we as a library board must ask for it. Sorry, I hope that wasn't too preachy.
No, I understood the concept. I understand that Sandy Library District goes beyond the city limits, but I assume that those people are coming in to use the Sandy Library because it's closer than going up to Hoodland.
No, they're coming to use it because they're entitled to come to use it.
Well, yeah, they're paying for it, right? Yeah.
So
Well, I think there's two issues. I think the issue we have to remember is that the ballot measure was told, that people were told, if you vote for this tax measure, the money's going to come in and the money's going to be spent on programs. It's going to be spent on library services. It's not going to be spent on capital improvements, and it's not going to, and the cities are not entitled to charge anything against this money unless it is a direct cost involved with the library. Don't charge me for a percentage of the city council. Don't charge me for anything else. Only that was the language of the ballot measure. And we took the money from the people with that language, and that's what they were told. And we need to make sure that's what they're getting. And right now, they haven't been getting that before. Plain and simple. I mean, you can cover it any way you want, but if you're taking money for capital improvements, and now I'm not saying Sand is the only library having issues, but that if I'm going to scream and holler, it can be in other places, I have to make sure that my own backyard is clean. And so that's what we're talking about. If the city has been billing, apparently has been billing with some formula, and there is no formula. If you have a direct cost, that's what you're entitled to be reimbursed from.
well, on the capital outlay though, the city has since 2009, or I guess Sarah would be appropriate to say 2011, I guess, right?
Right.
I think the mortgage was from 2011. The city has more than reimbursed that debt as additional funds to the library. So the city has fulfilled that function, that
Good.
obligation. Without question, it has fulfilled that obligation. The issue is just this overhead allocation.
Okay.
But I'm also seeing that I believe the number was $335,000 of general fund money is going to support the library. And that's
Right.
above and beyond the capital investment stuff. And so the
No.
capital investment payment was $95,000. So we're up to like, 200 and some $1,000 that the general fund is putting in to the library. So I guess I'm a little bit confused about how we're, not, we're not paying up the share, but I guess I'd like to hear more about how you see that, because I see that as y'all are ahead, not owed money, but I could, be talked, I'm learning. So I'm kind of just, I'm not trying to make a judgment here. I'm just trying to learn and get information at this point about
Maybe
how
we can
how it works.
continue this discussion at the end of the meeting if we have time. And if not, I can make sure it's on the agenda for next time. It's nothing that has to be decided this evening.
Right. Unless we need to raise it in some way at the budget meeting, Sarah, but I don't think we do.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the budget committee hearing is the right place for it. I think if we're going to bring it to city council, we should bring it to a city council meeting.
Okay.
All right, so these accomplishments and goals on this page came directly from our library strategic plan, except for the last goal, which is about our future strategic plan. So we created a 5-year strategic plan, which started in 2017. It ends in 2022. I'm going to need to assess whether we extend the strategic plan by 1 to 2 years because of the pandemic. We haven't reached a number of our goals, or if we should just create a new strategic plan. But either way, it's a goal. We just need to decide which route to take. So, are there any questions about our accomplishments or goals? All right.
We've done a great job considering everything.
Yeah, it's been a little rough on some of the areas, but I feel like we're still making progress on a number of them, which is good news. So the budget highlights, as I already stated, in 2008, voters in Clackamas County approved a library district with a permanent tax rate of 0.3974 cents per thousand. The next 4 items are really trends that we've seen over the last biennium and this biennium, or this upcoming biennium, and that is reduced fine revenue. Link libraries have not charged or collected fines since April of 2020. So we have not gotten the fine revenue that we needed from our last biennium. And in the upcoming biennium, I have reduced our fine revenue. And so it's about the same as it was in the last biennium. For one reason, I'm not sure when link libraries are going to start charging fines and fees again. And then fines and fees are really a barrier to service for disadvantaged populations. And so, when you charge a 25-cent fee or something like that, and it accrues each day, right? Up to $5 per item. Some families are able to pay those costs and some aren't. And really it's those disadvantaged people that we want to make sure have library service and can always utilize the library. Increased personnel costs with fewer benefited FTE. Each biennium, we've had one benefited person leave the library, and we have not replaced them with another benefited person. We've simply given their hours to our part-time staff who work either under or over 20 hours per week to kind of try to balance the budget. And then we have shifted money from physical formats to digital formats. And one exception to that is we've discontinued databases that were not well used, and those were in the digital format. But for example, our ebooks and e-audiobook checkouts, pre-pandemic, we were checking out about 475 ebooks or e-audiobooks each month. And during the pandemic, we've been checking out 975 So
Oh.
over twice as many per month. So, and of course, the costs of those digital formats are more expensive than the physical formats, unfortunately. And then we've got money for citywide programs in there. And that's really our work with the community center to try to balance the programming that all of us do. And so this is really Sandy Summer Sounds and things like that that happen within the city that the library now is a partner with the community center on. So we've got money in there for those citywide programs. And then finally, Clackamas County has a task force that they created to look at library services and funding countywide. If you were here during the last budget presentation, you may remember that I talked about this then as well. But we started our first meeting in January of 2020, and then the pandemic hit, and we have not met since. So hopefully that will start up again soon so that we can either figure out a way to do things more efficiently as a group to save money, or to look at how to obtain more funding for the libraries. And that is the end of my budget presentation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a minute so I can see all of your faces. We can talk about any additional comments or things that we need to talk about before we move on. Kathleen, Drain.
Sarah, what attribution will the library get on those citywide programs?
So the library generally does most of the publicity for them. So we always have Sandy Public Library and the community center logos displayed together on all of the publicity materials.
Okay.
And for example, the library was in charge of the Christmas tree lighting this past year. So we had the Sandy Public Library on all of those publicity materials, I think. Although it might have just said City of Sandy, now that I think about it, on the Christmas tree lighting, because that's always been a program run. This is the first year the library actually took it on, which was interesting with COVID, trying to figure out what to do with it. Before that, it was run by David Snyder out of the Economic Development Department. But the City Council wants him to focus on economic development, which makes sense. And the Christmas tree lighting isn't necessarily about economic development. So
It's just if library district funds are being used for programs like that, then in my view, it would be imperative that the library get a lot of branding out of it and, you know, be able to pass out all sorts of brochures or whatever, so to make sure that it in fact is promoting the library.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I can guarantee that Sandy Summer Sounds had the library logo on it last year. And that is the main thing that comes out of the library budget. The Christmas tree lighting comes out of a general fund budget. So it's not in the library budget.
Oh, okay.
So I guess a question on fines in the future going forward. Are you going to reevaluate charging fines, or?
I am on a committee within the library directors to try to look at how to go fine free. There are a number of libraries that of course rely on their fines to balance their budget. And Sandy is one of them. Sandy and Hoodland is one of them. I needed that $17,000 in my budget in order to balance my budget. I reduced everything a reasonable amount that I felt like I could, increased a few areas that I knew would increase a little bit. So, you know, it's definitely a hard sell among all of the libraries, and yet we know that we need to do it to reduce those barriers for people.
Yeah, it's a good philosophy to move forward with.
Mhm. So that's something that the task force could hopefully work on. And if the task force recommended that we reduce fines, that would be a good thing in my opinion. And then we need to figure out how we can manage it.
Mhm. Thank you.
Counselor Walker?
Yeah, is there an opportunity to get any more grants? Are there very many grants out there? Is my first question. And my follow-up question would be, I know there's increases in personnel costs for PERS and things like that. But I guess I see $200,000 more in personnel and then quite a considerable drop in the, what do you call that?
The fine.
Materials and services. Yeah. The books, the electronic books that you had said are becoming more important or demanded and stuff. And so I guess I'd like to kind of, in addition to finding out more about grants, can you kind of talk to us a little bit about that increase in personnel versus loss of the materials and supplies that might affect a lot of the users?
Yeah, I mean, the PERS has been a problem for us last biennium and this biennium for sure. And each biennium, it's about $200,000 that continues to rise. And some of that is just the salaries of staff, but not very much of it. Most of it, I would say, is the benefits, unfortunately. I mean, Sandy is lucky because the city of Sandy continues to grow. And so our percentage of what we get from Clackamas County continues to grow. But it's just not that growth is not keeping up with the cost of those personnel, right? Which unfortunately means I have to reduce the materials and services lines. And there's not really any other way around it. If I don't have the staff, then I can't provide the programming or the services. And so it's kind of a balance of trying to, I've been lucky in both bienniums that I've had a benefited staff person leave so that I could reduce that cost a little bit, the PERS cost. But it's a tough balance ultimately. So the grants, there are grants out there, but they are for specific things, right? They are for new technology, or there's nothing in the library world that is for what we're already doing ultimately. So if we wanted to, but then we would have to add a new service, which has a cost associated with it as well. So, I would love to get more grants, and I know that that is an area of expertise for you, Counselor Walker. So I would love some support there, but it's difficult to apply for a grant and start a new service when we have a hard time maintaining the services we already have, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I got a quick question. During this period when we have not been charging fines, and assessments, has there been a noticeable change in the percentages of books not returned or kept for unbelievable lengths of period of time?
The behavior of people. Yeah.
Yeah, has the behavior changed?
Not significantly, I would say. I've been sort of surprised. Generally, we've been doing curbside service since April of 2020, right? From 1 month, about 1 month after we closed the library, we started doing curbside service. And we stopped charging fines around the same time that we started curbside service. And so I would say that most people, I would say 80% of people read their books and bring them back immediately because they want to check out more books, or watch their DVDs and bring them back immediately because they want to watch more DVDs. So I don't think people have really been keeping the materials for much longer than they normally would.
That's good.
Because it might work to reinstitute the the fines, but allow people to apply for a waiver from fines.
Mhm.
And I think that could probably, increase that line item by 30, 40%,
Mhm.
easily. And that's very precious money for programs and
Mhm.
stuff we want to do. It's a
Right.
shame we have to count on it to help balance our budget, but that's a reality of life.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I've paid late
Yeah.
fees since I was a kid in grade school.
That means you're not getting your stuff back in time, Dale.
Well, not frequently, mind you.
Well, that's an idea. You have to fill out paperwork to get a waiver,
Mhm.
do the paperwork. I mean,
So, I mean, there are some people who probably would feel responsible enough that they wouldn't want to not pay their fines, right? But they
Yeah.
really can't afford it very much. Like they might have to choose between paying library fines. I mean, a lot of people have to choose between paying library fines or their utility bills or, those types of things.
Mhm.
And some of those people probably would still continue to pay their fines if they were assessed fines. Which is why I would prefer to do away with fines altogether if we can figure out a way to do it.
okay, go.
Any additional any additional thoughts about my budget presentation?
No.
Kathleen Drain?
Um, I know you've told the board this before, but perhaps you should say that the Friends fundraiser from the spring of 2020 took care of a substantial technical outlay the library needed to make. And I didn't see that in your slides, and I thought that might be a good thing to tell them that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. It is a good thing to tell them. I don't know if I can fit it into my slides, but I can certainly make it a part of the presentation either way. I will try to fit it in on that last slide if I can.
Because that basically
Use some
brought
of
you
those
a
with it.
technical deferral,
Yeah,
technology.
and that was
deferral.
over $32,000 that the friend was able to fundraise for the library for
Oh.
computer. Yeah,
Yeah.
and which was amazing. Thank you,
Thank
Dale
you.
and Jack. That happened right before the pandemic hit.
It
I think
was
we were all
absolutely,
surprised.
I will say it was absolutely amazing. And we just skimmed underneath because we were going to start at the 1st of March. We started at the last week of February and we had everybody covered before it closed down. So the only thing we really lost out on was our callbacks, but considering everything, it was a miraculous as far as I'm concerned.
It was a really amazing effort.
Thank you.
All right. So I think the standards were next on the list, correct?
That's correct.
Mhm.
Okay. So for those of you that have been on the library board for a while, a few years ago, I think we went through the standards piece by piece to make sure that we met each standard. I just wanted to send this out for anybody who was a new member. And Counselor Walker had a chance to look at the standards then and see what they were about. But I just wanted to bring it up and make sure if anybody had any questions about any of the standards. There are 7 sections and it's a very long document, I know. So did anybody have any questions or concerns about any standards that they were wondering if we met, or?
I had a question about the one question on we maintain historical materials and information on Sandy.
Mhm.
And we said, no, we don't. And yet we've highlighted, a lot of times it's on the visitors board or the wall, historical photos and information about Sandy, but we don't actually have an area for Sandy historical books or information, or are we depending
We
upon
have in the 970s, we do have some Sandy specific history items and but mostly like Oregon Trail and those types of materials. But we don't specifically preserve Sandy history at the library. The Sandy Historical Museum does that for the city. So I feel like it would be a duplication of effort. And sometimes when we're going to discard one of those materials because we don't have a way to preserve it properly, the Sandy Historical Society will take it and do some preservation with it so that it is still in the community. So it's sort of a group effort. We do have a few of those items in the library, but we're not really in archives of that kind.
I have a question. The Hoodland Library is open 20 hours a week. Is that it?
Right now, do you mean, or?
Well,
they're open 30,
when
they were open 35 hours a week before the pandemic hit, so.
right.
They're open more than
But
20,
I just,
20 hours a
okay,
week. Yeah.
when they're
and
open,
these-
because I know you made cuts and I read in there,
Yeah.
they had to be open at least 20 hours a week. So I didn't keep track of that.
Yeah. So they
So we're
were,
still
before the
needing that.
pandemic, they were open 6 days a week, and generally almost 6 hours a day. So 35 hours is what it is. It's one day is shorter than the others, but yeah. So they're still over the standard.
Okay, and then the other question I had is, there is reference to are the policies and is all the documents available in other languages? The policies and
No, the policies are only available in English currently.
Okay.
And for a while, we were translating all of our program flyers into Spanish language, but we haven't done that for a while. It's difficult. I mean, we have 2 Spanish speakers on staff, but neither one of them is necessarily a translator. And one of them is a native Spanish speaker, and one of them is a Caucasian person who learned Spanish. So yeah, it's something that we have been discussing again, trying to figure out how to get it done. And we could pay for a service to translate, for example, all of our policies into Spanish. But that would cost us money, which we don't really have. That might be something we could apply for a grant for. That would be a one-time thing, and it would meet that standard then.
But that was like a level, that was a higher standard. So
Right.
It wasn't the basic standard.
Right. But if we can meet, I mean, I would love to meet the highest standards there are. So it's a good thought, Jerry.
Yeah. I think that's all. I didn't know if we were going to go through the whole thing or not. I was ready to go through the whole thing.
If you want to, we can.
Gary, we did that for months and months and months and months, if you recall.
Yeah, I do. I
Sorry,
guess
that was
I was ready.
mind-numbing. Positively mind-numbing.
Yeah.
Too much repetition.
And I do have to answer the survey by next month. So I figured if we needed to schedule another meeting to talk about it, we could. But if anybody else has any other questions about the standards and whether we need them or not.
That stuck out in my mind.
I mean, even though it was so laborious going through those, I feel it was really a worthwhile process in that it brought up some really good questions and also showed us some gaps that we addressed.
Well, it gives you another understanding of what's going on there instead of just getting books. Go get a book and go home. That's the fallacy I think the general public has about everything. It's like, why is it that way? Well, when you go deep,
Mhm,
you get the answer.
mhm.
How are you expected to answer this form this year, Sarah?
For each of the basic level standards, I have to just do a yes or no question, answer it yes or no. So I'm fairly certain all of our answers are yes, that we meet the standard, because it was basically the standard level, right? The basic level of standards.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then not even bother going into the other parts this year, and maybe wait till a future year when we're actually back up to full speed.
That's a good thought too. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you know you already got it higher level, answer the question.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's all I have on the standards. Anybody else have any questions on the standards? Okay. Do you have enough information there, Sarah?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, old business? Is there any old business?
Just an LDAC report, I guess. We had a meeting on March 22. First time we've met in, how long, Sarah? Months, right?
Probably a year, a full, yeah.
Yeah, year
I
probably.
missed it.
Sadly, we basically did nothing, is what it came down to. At Sarah's behest, I tried to press that they push the task force forward sooner than later. But oh gosh, the pandemic's just got everybody overloaded, and gee, I don't know if anybody wants to do this now, and I don't know whether the city managers want to do this, so we better poll them, blah, 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 blah.
Ad
So
nauseam, ad nauseam, ad nauseam.
Yeah. What's their next excuse when this is gone?
there may be one, because politically there actually is probably an underlying agenda here, but we'll keep trying. We're supposed to have a meeting, I think in June, I think it was, and we asked that the annual reports be closed out, that we have 3 fiscal years of annual reports that have not been submitted, reviewed, and sent to the county commissioners. And then Paul Savas says, well, it's okay, we're not really worried about it.
So the library directors are getting together the 2 years that we were planning on initially to send. And so I think LDAC will get 2 years of reports, and this last year's reports will not be included. But we will look at the 2 years of reports in June.
Okay.
And the task force members were polled to see if they wanted to meet and how they wanted to meet. So there is some movement there on the task force, just not much.
Huh. Is it the
So.
task force so overwhelming that everybody's afraid to jump in? I mean,
I
Well,
think
we
the
don't-
problem
I
was
mean-
that the organization
Yeah.
wasn't allowed to complete its formation.
Correct.
And so as a result, you've got this just blob of stuff that doesn't have a form, and they can't figure out how to get a form to it,
Mhm.
because they figure that this massive group can't successfully meet via Zoom.
Mhm.
So then how do you do it to get it into the subcommittees that could start functioning, but haven't been given their authority yet? So it's not easy, but it could be done, I think.
yeah.
The main task force has about almost 80 members on it, just to give you an idea of how large the main task force is. And so it is difficult, and we didn't even get to the point of electing a chair of the main group, so that then they could give their charges to the subcommittees so that then they could go forward and have a meeting and elect chairs of their own. So yeah, it is unfortunate how it all happened. I mean, in January, I felt like we were all ready to go, right? Everybody was,
Mhm.
most people were sort of energized after that task force meeting and excited about meeting again. And then the pandemic hit and we haven't met in over a year. So,
And the fires and the windstorms and,
yeah,
you know,
Mhm.
it
which
has
is-
been an interesting year.
I think the committee is going to have to coalesce around one big issue, and I would imagine it would be a budget, would be money, tax base increases. You know, that's something I think that we can handle as a group fairly efficiently. But you've got so many individual tribes in the library nation that have enough issues and concerns to keep them busy. That it's hard to make that the big group, figure out, okay, what's important to us all.
Yeah. Budget's a good idea.
Yeah, I am. I mean, I've said this before to you guys. I was very worried about our budget in the last biennium. Even more worried about our budget in the current upcoming biennium. I managed to balance it, but it was not easy. And going forward, PERS doesn't appear to be getting any better for the cities. So I'm just happy I haven't had to lay off staff yet. So
Okay. Any other old business?
Well, since we have two representatives here from the Friends group, I'm wondering with regard to what Sarah just said, as far as the difficulty in balancing the budget and even more concern for this biennium. Y'all know that this is kind of the bell that I ring often, and that is since we as the library, a city entity, cannot solicit funds or donations, I would really like to just put it forth that what can we do through the Friends to create some awareness that just because we have materials available and fabulous programming that's continuing and staff that's above and beyond amazing, that we're not a machine that functions without money. And what types of ideas like the great donation jar, that we used to have at First Fridays and other events, so graciously sponsored and supported by the Friends group. So I just feel really strongly that we can't quietly give the impression that all is well. And I'm not saying that we should paint the budget picture to the public either, but that it's not, oh, individuals and other companies and restaurants have had a hard time. It's like, hello, we need your ongoing support. And it would be great to bring some of that awareness. And again, not from a crybaby place or a complaining or whining place, but say, wow, all these great programs that we've been able to do throughout this difficult time of the pandemic, et cetera, help us continue until who knows when. So I don't know if you all, Jack, Gail, Hoff, have any comments or ideas based around that.
Dale, you go ahead first. I'll wait for you.
We've kind of just put our monies toward programming and supporting programming. and trying to fill little budget holes when Sarah alerts us to it. I think that mainly the Friends have been trying to do that and build a reserve so that when we are no longer able to go out and do the fundraising, you'll have an ongoing support there.
With
I don't
the
know.
endowment. Mhm.
Mhm. Right, and I wasn't, certainly don't want you to think I'm implying that you haven't been doing anything, not that, I'm just, I'm looking at from the standpoint that we, i.e. the Friends, because the Book Nook has been closed, the Friends group has lost a huge source of ongoing revenue, right, with the Book Nook, so.
We have none, yeah. Well, I have a couple of comments. First of all, I think that it's absolutely paramount. I disagree. I think that every little intricacy of the budget should be shared with the community. And I think they need to do that. And because my feeling is when we went out talking about money for the computer, the biggest point we made is that there is a shortfall. Sarah has budgeted, the main thing I said was Sarah has budgeted for this, but she can't get it done fast enough. And that's why we're doing it. And we're not gonna come to you all the time trying to get monies for generally running the library. And this is what we're coming for. This is a shortfall we need to supplement. And that worked. And I think the final check was 36,000. I forgot exactly what it was, something like that. So I would be uncomfortable. I don't think it would be beneficial to go as a routine thing and ask for money to run the library as far as paying PERS costs and all that. I think the important thing is the vital thing is ultimately you're going to have to go back to the people of Clackamas County and say we need more money. And I think if that's true, which I think is going to be true, we now have got to start the educational process. It would be nice if I looked in the Sandy Post, I'm Joe Blow, that I come to the library occasionally, and I can look at these figures and say, this money comes from here, this money comes from here, it goes here and here. You can see this came in, this went out, we're short. And if we're short, we only can cut it off in one place. And that means we're going to have to close down the hours or we're going to have less people. And I think you start that process right now, and then 2 years from now or 3 years from now, when the ballot measure comes up, then I think you have a better chance of passing it. If you remember in 2008, we thought there was no way in hell this is going to pass. But in 2008, we elected Obama, Sandy passed the library thing, and they also did a high school thing, which if anybody would have taken bets on that in October, they thought we're crazy, but it happened. Yeah. And I think because you had an informed electorate who knew what was going on, and we made a deal, this is what you're going to get for it. So I think the Friends mainly is to support as much as we can, but I think the educational part about the budget is absolutely paramount.
Yeah, good point, Jack. Thank you.
Okay.
I agree.
I'm going to jump in here because I was thrilled with the efforts that the Friends of the Library took on raising that much money. You know, you had a really a good presentation. I was in this audience when you made the presentation at the city council meeting. And I think there was a lot of interest. I know there's a lot of interest and obviously a lot of response in town and in the community and up on the mountain and stuff to help get us to that $32,000 mark. The one thing that I did kind of hear that we could probably do better at was being more, having the opportunity for folks to donate online and kind of do more social media to recruit the people's wallets. And there's folks out there that there's folks in this community that can help us with that. If that's something that, you know, I think that would be really helpful because I think people support this. And if we had like what you're saying is, well, people aren't, you know, don't go out just, well, we got to pay more PERS, donate some money. But if you had something like, you know, either a children's, we want to get, you know, so many more children's books, or we want to, you know, this whole issue with the, you know, I'm really struck by that, the way this pandemic has affected the way, you know, people, will they go back to work or will they do more work at home? What I'm hearing is that people are more doing the, you know, the Kindle ebooks and the audio books because the library was closed, and maybe they work and they can't get to the library, so they went the electronic route. And I honestly, just to, full confession here, is most of what I read is, I like to buy books once in a while, and I like to go to the library, but most of what I do, books that I do read that are not, that I haven't bought myself or had friends buy for me, are ebooks, and through the library and audiobooks. And so having some, and I'm concerned that we're cutting that budget of materials and supplies. And what you're saying is that, they're trying to kind of increase the cost for all those things and limit how long we can hold them. I was reading those articles that I think Sarah posted about that. So having some sort of a fundraising, opportunity there to, for a particular project, whether it's children's books or more ebooks and audiobooks or whatever it is, some kind of particular project that everybody can kind of get around, and then having some folks help with getting it more out on Facebook and social media, but having an online opportunity to donate online would really help get that money rolling in. And I'm just, like I said, I'm so thankful and for how much you guys were able to do, even without that social media and electronic donations. It's fabulous. I'm so proud of what you guys did. And I think it could be even more successful with a little help from some of those IT folks to kind of help make it. And kind of on that particular flavor, then also the other old business I would say is you all have two positions open. And I'm just wondering if you guys already have any candidates for that, or what? Maybe you're going to cover that later, Sarah. But yeah,
and
that's
the
my
staff
thoughts on it.
updates, I was planning to cover that.
Thinking outside the box a little bit here. I know Amazon is the king for people. We all buy books through Amazon. I wonder if there's a way for the library systems to become resellers of books. People can come to our library site and look up books, and it would take some IT people probably to pull this off, but to be able, people could order them and get them here locally, and we can take $1 a cut per book, or some way to do that. I think people might want to do that simply to help support our library district in Sandy. They would use that and would be just drop shipping books, pretty much the same way Amazon sends them out.
I don't know that it would be legal for the library itself to sell new books to folks in the community. The Friends of the Library could certainly buy new books at a discount rate, maybe even, and then sell them to the community. But that would be probably a large undertaking for the Friends, unless Dale, you're gonna offer yourself as a service for that, or you can find somebody to assist. But I think it would be difficult for the Friends to do with their current resources. I mean, ultimately, they have a large number of members who regularly, when was pre-pandemic, would regularly go and pick up books from other book sales. They would go pick up large loads of books from people's homes, right? And so that was their main source of getting materials. So that's my thought on it. Jack, go ahead.
My only comment, as far as Kathleen talking about going online and Facebook and all that, I think the mean age of the Friends is north of 75 someplace. So I think that most of us would not, we would support it, but as far as having someone who's now an active in the Friends to do something on computers and social media, I don't have a social media account. I'm sure Dale doesn't. I don't know anybody who does. So that's just the population we're dealing with. And I think that scares the hell out of me when you do that. I'll support it, but as me taking some type of initiative, it would not fly. You agree?
No, I meant bringing some younger people and nothing I'm not trying to.
We have been trying for years and have been unsuccessful. Only thing's happening is our medium age keeps getting higher and higher. So we haven't any young blood for a long time.
So we just
Some
have
of
to
those
pitch what the
young-
advantage is for younger folks to come in and be part of the Friends.
I get some of those young 60-year-olds.
Well,
We're talking about kids now.
But I think if you articulate, say, we need some help getting, an online donation thing set up and running and operating. Not even young people, it's people there's older people with those skills, retired people with those skills that can do that. So it's just, it's kind of those specific jobs that you can kind of say, we need help to do this. And I think there's help out there. And anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm willing to help too in any way I can.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to staff updates.
All right. So before that, I think I had the next steps in the reopening plan on the agenda. So I just wanted to mention that I'm thinking, depending on how things go within the county and the virus numbers and things like that, that June 1st, we will likely, right now we're in 2 teams, one working the first half of the week and the other working the second half of the week. I think by June 1st, we will be able to integrate our staff back into one group, which would mean that we would increase our browsing hours Monday through Friday to 4 hours a day. Right now we have 2 hours a day of browsing every day of the week. I'm still thinking that as long as we're in one of the risk zones, that we would not just open the library completely, that we would still keep up with all of our COVID protocols and make sure we're being safe. But that is sort of my plan for June 1st, is to reintegrate the library staff and to increase our browsing hours. We're going to continue with curbside service even after COVID is all dead and gone, or mostly dead and gone. I don't know if it'll ever be gone, but so our curbside service is something that will be with us far into the future, I believe, even with browsing. So in the month of March, we increased our checkouts by about 4,000 from the previous month. And I would say that was mostly due to browsing. So our curbside service is not quite keeping up with what it was, but it's still a good, viable service. So that is sort of our plan going forward.
Okay.
I got a question. Are we still quarantining books when they come in?
We actually just this week stopped quarantining based on the CDC's statement that you don't really catch anything from touching surfaces. So yes, just this past Tuesday, we stopped quarantining items and checked everything in, and now we're checking everything in immediately when it's returned. So
Cool.
that was a good step forward.
Are you taking money again?
Not yet. I mean, in theory we could, and I don't see that there is any danger to taking money. The library directors have not. So we said we extended the fine free until the end of June, I think, at our last discussion about it. And that's, I think, mainly because we know there are still a lot of unemployed people in our communities, and we want them to be able to continue to come to the library, right? We don't want those fines to be a barrier for those people.
But so taking money for the Friends, when you increase to 4 hours, will that be feasible at the front?
The way I've got the schedule right now, it's not. We still, I'm trying to limit the number of staff in the building still, so that we don't have like 6 people together in that back office, which Kathy is aware of how small that back office is, and that's how many people generally sit in there together. So each full-time, or each person who works over 30 hours a week, the library assistants, librarians, and the assistant director and I are all going to be working one day from home. So that limits how many people will be in the building, right? But that doesn't give us the people to take money for the Friends items. While we're in the risk zones, we still have to track how many people are in the building. So we need one person basically who counts people when they enter and one person who counts people when they leave. And then we need 2 curbside people, and those are the 3 stations we have up front. And it's very difficult to count people when they leave if you're distracted by trying to ring up a Friends purchase. I mean, some people, it was great in the past. Some people would come up to the desk and have like $100 worth of Friends items every once in a while, or even $20 or $30, which if you are aware of how much those items cost, that's the large number of items to try to figure out and ring up. So, I'm still thinking about it and trying to figure out how we could manage it. But I don't know that it's manageable yet.
Okay, due to population.
Yeah.
How are we comparing to other libraries in Oregon as far as opening and hours?
Well, within Clackamas County, the Sandy Library was the first to utilize curbside for service and the first to open for browsing. So I'm very proud of that. There are still libraries in Clackamas County that are not open for browsing. I would say we're still in the minority. Within the state, it varies considerably. Most libraries in urban areas are not yet open for browsing. Like Multnomah County recently announced that they were going to open 3 branches for browsing, which was exciting news, but they're sort of behind the curve a little bit. Most urban areas, I would say rural areas are more likely to be open. They're going to be in smaller communities and they don't have the same risk levels as even Clackamas County does. So it varies widely throughout the state.
What kind of turnout are you having for the computer room?
It's pretty good, I would say. We're still not, so right now we increased the appointments at Sandy to allow for 3 appointments per hour. And I would say most days are still not full with 9 people. But a lot of days we have 5 or 6 people. And then we have the occasional day where we're completely full. So I would say we're not reaching capacity often enough that I feel like we need to increase it. And the same is true for browsing. We have not reached capacity for browsing yet. We've come within 3 people of reaching capacity, but we haven't reached capacity. So yeah.
Can I offer some input on that, Sarah?
Mm-hmm.
And that is on both, well, I would say certainly for the computer lab reservations and the browsing, but basically all of our services that we're offering. I would love to see more social media posting on all that we're doing. Just remembering that you really can't, unless you're, posting every, 5 times in an hour or something, the chances of your reach are going to be greater as far as just getting the information out there is what I'm saying. To say, hey, did you know that we have computer hours available? And browsing and all that. I know that that's been done, but it's not like a one and done kind of thing.
Right.
When it comes to the social media. So I would just encourage you to really talk up, getting the word out there as far as what we are offering, and that there's browsing. There's people that didn't even know that, usual library users that didn't know we were even open for browsing yet.
Right.
So
I would say that, everybody who gets our newsletter hears about it regularly, right? And
Yep.
that's over 2,000 people for just the library newsletter. And then everybody who gets the city newsletter has heard all of the library news at least once. And then we did send out a paper newsletter to everybody who has used the library in the last year who does not have an email account in their record. With the information about browsing and computers. And so that went out to about 1,500 people. So we have tried to get the word out in paper format to people who we don't know if they're online or who aren't easily identified as being online. So
Mhm.
yeah.
And that wasn't saying that you haven't done it. I'm just,
Right. No,
I'm-
no,
I'm-
I know.
I'm saying from a social media standpoint, and there's just so much that goes by everybody's eyeballs that it kind of even to cycling at in second post, third post, whatever, just because there's just so much data that none of us
Right. Yeah.
retain it all. So
I will talk, Thea is our main person who does our social media. I will talk to her. I don't know if she can set up reoccurring posts, like say, I want to post this once a week or once a month for the next time period.
Yeah.
I'll ask her if she could do that, because
Yeah,
that
you
might
can-
be worthwhile.
yes, you can, because there are schedulers that
Mhm.
are, scheduling platforms, if you will.
Right. And I know
that-
she does use, she does schedule her posts. So
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll talk to her about that.
Thea,
Thea. Mhm.
how do you spell that?
THEA.
Ah, I was right.
All right. So let's see. The library board applicants. So far we've had 2 library board applicants for our 2 open positions, and I believe they are both people who live within the city limits. So if you know people who are in the Sandy service area who live outside of the city limits, that would be good candidates for the library board. Please talk to them. So far, we don't have any diverse applicants. Blanca used to be on the library board, and she was a great person to have on the library board. She represented the Hispanic community that she lives in. So if anybody knows anybody that has any diversity, that would also be a great ask. So. But we do have some applicants, which is good news. Oftentimes when we post library board positions, it's like crickets. So, so we have a good start anyway.
Yeah.
And Counselor Walker, I believe the committee has been set up with City Council that is going to interview candidates. Is that true? Yeah.
Yes, I think. But now I can't, it was kind of late. It was like one of the last things we discussed Monday night. I know it's me. I want to say maybe it's, I forget. I think there's 3 people or something like that. So
I think it's Mayor Pulliam.
And Jeremy?
then- I don't think it was Jeremy. It wasn't Don.
Rich, it was
Who is
Rich
it?
Sheldon?
I think it was Rich.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I was somebody that I haven't really met yet.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
He's a Clackamas County Sheriff, works with domestic abuse victims and things like that in Clackamas County for
Oh,
the
good.
sheriff. Yeah, he's got a lot of, he works with a lot of nonprofits and things like that, so.
Mhm. All right.
Okay.
And
Anything-
then finally, go ahead.
I just said anything else.
Okay. I was just going to mention that there is a fledgling group trying to start a Rotary Club in Sandy. So if any of you are interested in Rotary, I am one of the group members, and we need to have a certain number of members before we can apply for a charter. And we're not quite there yet. So if any of you are interested in joining Rotary, I would love to have you join. But just go ahead and contact me offline if you are interested. So that is my last thought.
Okay. Is there anything else before we adjourn?
If there's anything you guys want me to take back to the city council, let me, it sounds like you're gonna take the budget, but if there's anything else, please let me know.
Okay. Are we gonna talk about next meeting? Sarah, you think we'll go every other month now or as needed?
We've been sort of scheduling as needed. This is not our usual day to meet. We usually meet on the first Wednesday of the month, right? So I would say we certainly don't need to meet probably the first Wednesday in May, since this is sort of late for our meeting in April. So I would probably be thinking of June, when we're gonna meet again, unless anything comes up or anybody has any agenda items before then.
Mhm. Okay.
Thanks for letting me barge in and participate. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, it's nice to see you here.
Great
Nice
to have you,
meet
Jack.
And you're a wealth of really, really good information. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Don't hesitate to come back.
As long as you don't try and give me another job, that's fine.
Hey, Jack, do you live in the city limits?
No,
or-
ma'am. No.
Okay. Okay, so I would like to thank everybody for coming, and I will say we are adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Sarah.